I hope I'm not late to the party. Well, the good news, you're not. In fact, you came 2 months early. What makes you say that? Spyro the fuck! This isn't Sonic! Have you guys ever heard of Insomniac's Disruptor? No? Me neither. But it's their first game ever, released in 1996, the same year Crash Bandicoot was out into the public. Despite being critically acclaimed, it didn't sell well. In response, the publisher of it, Universal Interactive, wanted something with a more mass market appeal, and then some artists at Insomniac came up with an idea of a dragon. Thus, the legend was born. Their second game ever was released in 1998 as a PlayStation exclusive with massive success. Yeah, it may say Sonic Computer Entertainment as the publisher on the wiki page of the 3, but trust me, Universal owned that shit, just like Crash. Speaking of Crash, Insomniac and Naughty Dog were just friends after the former put the demo of Crash 3 in the game, and vice versa, and went on until Crash bashed and Year of the Dragon. Look, if you want a more in-depth history of it, go watch someone better than me. And to those calling me out for joining on the Spyro Reignited bandwagon, you're right. Oh man, nostalgia witnessing the title sequence for the first time is so strong. Although, unlike some of you did on your PlayStations in the 90s as kids, I experienced it when I was 12 or 13 on an emulator early this decade. But it still gives me goosebumps sometimes. The only Spyro game that I really owned at the time was the third one, so be prepared for me to be spoiled. The story begins with an interview with the dragons. After being bad-mouthed by someone in it, Gymnastic Nork turns most of the gems into Norks, as well as making every dragon into crystals, except for a little Spyro here. That's basically it. Free the dragons, collect the gems, and occasionally eggs to progress. This ain't Final Fantasy, yo. How can Nasty transform them into crystals? Don't overthink! Welcome to the Artisan's World, one of 6 hub worlds in the game, and unlike the sequels, this has enemies in it.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro.
I'll bet this is the last time I heard that line. Each hub has 3 regular levels, a boss stage, and a speedway world. I'll get to those last 2 later. For controls, it's great. Square is for charging, which are for those kinds of players who rush through the game, and it's also useful against the little guys, especially ones with armor. Circle is for your fire breath, which is required for big enemies. Handling that little dragon is quite fantastic, even with its turning circle when charging, kind of like driving a car. Oh great, here comes the car analogies! You can glide by pressing X while mid-air, and you can also control the speed of the guy like an helicopter, although I guess nobody ever even do that. Hey, at least it's not a car analogy this time. Oh yeah, and I can't hover in this game. You know what's weird? Looking around is the controller buttons. It's been carried over to at least the third one. I won't be disturbed by it, but since I charge most of the time, there really isn't any use for me. Speaking of which, there are 2 camera modes, passive and active. While the latter centers the camera while moving, in the former, you have to adjust it by yourself. Or at least I thought they would, but it seems like both of them act nearly the same. A quick fist to charge, or tap triangle to center it. With you, it sparks the dragonfly, which is the game's health meter. It is indicated by colors from yellow, blue, green, and non-existent. To replenish your health, you either kill fodder which spawn butterflies so that I can eat. Basically, it's like Aku Aku, except it can pick up nearby gems for you. How can Sparks transfer his health to Spyro? Don't test me! I have one issue though, very minor, but it has limited range. Either that, or he just doesn't give a shit at times. Like, I have to get so close to the gem just so he could grab it. And if he's trying to eat a butterfly when he's at full health, you must pick them up by yourself, as if you don't have them. And you know how much I hate picking them by myself. Barely. So to get to the next hub world, you need to collect the total required items, like 10 dragons for instance. Do that by stepping on those platforms.
Thank you for releasing me!
I just hope I don't get to hear that once more. Most of the dragons give you hints on playing the game.
Big enemies like this Gnorc with the club cannot be charged, but a quick flame, that should defeat them.
While others just...
Thank you for releasing me!
I have a certain feeling I'm gonna hear that line more often. And I'm starting to bring this up, but all the dragons are men, which is weird. Where are the lady dragons at? Do they reproduce asexually? Are some dragons transmask? That will explain the lack of... Oh my god, I've become MatPat! Can you imagine a world where you're all represented by a fucking gem? Speaking of, gems. They're also essential to your progression, as it unlocks new hub worlds to explore, as well as dragon eggs, even though they're required for only 1 hub world. Back to gems, it's weird for me to see diverse ways they're stored compared to the sequels. They're just standing there in enemies and in chests, whether or not, but they're also in buckets of fireworks, in chests where you have to flame and jump to get them, in those watery things where you have to at least flame 3 times, and in locked chests where you have to find a key, the last one returning to Spyro 3. But what's the reward for collecting all the gems at least? None? What about all 80 dragons? None whatsoever? All the eggs? None as well? Well, I expected something like infinite super flame, but if you collect all 3 things together, it will unlock something special. We'll come to that later. The stages at the beginning sometimes feel open with Stone Hill and Cliff Town with its larger outer parts. Even if some feel linear, there are other ways to traverse when it comes to collecting stuff. Each hub world has its own theme, artisans with a more down-to-earth setting, peacemakers with deserts, an icy canyon and a revolutionary war going on, magic crafters sitting in a mountain full of, what else, magic, eventually cutting warlocks shaping the world against your will, peacemakers taking place in swamps and jungles, and dream movers where, give me a second. I love the designs of the levels. They have a great balance in difficulty with its enemies and platforming, even if it's bullshit at times. Fucking tree rabbits, whatever they're supposed to be. There are also power-ups in this game, like Super Frame, where you can destroy anything metal for a limited time, and Supercharge, which makes you faster once you charge on the areas of a level, and it's useful to destroy hard chests and those metal spiders.
I hate those bugs. When I become big and strong, like you, I'll squash them all.
Until then, remember that Supercharge makes you invincible.
For boss stages though, all but one have a short section before or between confronting them, and well, they're quick and pathetically easy. The rest I could think of is Toasty with those damn dogs. Basically you just flame most of them and they're done for, releasing some gems afterwards. I mean, Metal Head is quite unique where you have to ram the electrical poles, but then you have Jax, who basically just flees from you and occasionally throw boxes at you. Come here, little bitch! I'm guessing the most challenging thing about them is that there's no fodder to get, so if you don't have sparks, you have to get lucky on those platforming sections. And then you have the speedways, or in this game's case, flights, where you have to get all 8 of each 4 objects that you must pass through or flame them before time runs out. Each object will add more time, although there's a delay after that. I don't know why. Despite that, there are great levels that test your flight abilities and a way to get quicker times after finishing it the first time, even if it is not important for 100% completion. It certainly controls better than that Superman game that I reviewed some time ago, as you don't need to make him accelerate. So after collecting enough dragons, enough gems, and enough eggs, you finally get to Nasty's world, or Nexus, or whatever it's called. Unlike all the hub worlds where you can play any stage in any order, you have to finish them in order. Nork Cove, where you're confronted by those balloonist looking guys in the docks, Twilight Harbor, where it has gun-toting Norks trying to kill you like shit, man, and then you confront Nasty himself, which is just trying to get him and flame him. The platforming here is quite challenging though, especially that part where the platform is going smaller up. I fucking hate that shit! How am I supposed to get to the other platform? After defeating him, you agree with the ending, where Spyro is interviewed, but it's not over yet, as you also need to get all the things required for 100%. Yeah, you don't see me do that. Having to backtrack to find stuff is quite torturous, since I sometimes can't find the last gems in the level, or trying to get to that one dragon in treetops. Ugh, even Spyro thinks it's bullshit.
That was quite a ride, Spyro. You've learned a lot since you were a young glider.
Yeah, well, you could have found an easier spot to get stuck.
Doing so will open a new portal to Nasty's loot, and if you excuse me for using someone else's playthrough, it is full of gems, 2,000 of them, and it also acts like a speedway in control terms. This is a great reward for doing so, and after collecting them all, you agree with Spyro interviewed again, this time with sunglasses, and then shit hits the fan again. Nice sequel hook, despite the second game being very different story-wise. Presentation for PS1 game is really beautiful. I really love how Spyro looks, so cute! The design that stuck, even after jumping to the next generation. Spyro in the Legend series is kinda similar, yet still looking good, and OH MY GOD, kill him with fire! Thank fuck they didn't butcher even more for the Reignited trilogy. Please be good. Sure, the dragons that he rescued look semi-updated with color changes, but the scenery on the other hand is great looking with its fantasy settings, unique enemies, and amazing programming. I love that they managed to have a great draw distance compared to most PS1 games at the time. Hey, I can see my house from there! For sound, it's great, with every dragon, including Spyro, being voiced by the likes of Karol Raki, I hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation, Clancy Brown, and Michael Gao. Just don't forget that there's like 15 dragons that say the same darn thing.
Thank you for releasing me! Spyro, it's great to see you, but I've got to go.
At least he didn't say thank you for releasing me. Music composed by the Police's Stuart Copeland is also amazing. My favorite being Lovely Castle. I have nothing much to say about it, it's just darn good. That was Spyro 1, and to summarize, it's just a simple collective fun with bosses. Looking back now, after playing Spyro 3 for a long time, it's really different, as you run side quests, no swimming, no hard bosses, and not having to save at the pause menu. Hell, it is possible to finish the game without confronting any boss besides Nasty, as they're optional. But still, even if the sequels improve a lot of things, it's still a great game, and you can pick it up at the PS Store for cheap, if you still have a PS3 laying around. Just beware, as it's the only American version in all regions to all you European people watching this. The Japanese version is quite different. Besides the voice acting, the camera is different, the movie is tweaked slightly for the worse, Sparks is always green, extra stuff involving the pocket station, and there's also signs around the levels, probably as leftovers from the betas. In other words, don't get the Japanese version, it's really fucking bad. At least the cover is cuter. Oh dear god, I haven't reviewed a PC game for a while. Let's see what I have here. Oh wait, my laptop can barely play them smoothly. No wonder this year's been mostly on console games. Why not?